So here's my sprayer build project. It's a 5 nozzle boom setup with these shut-off valves in between each nozzle. It's got a battery right here that should last about an hour, a 5-gallon pump, a strainer, and a pressure relief valve here. So it's got this pressure relief valve, PSI gauge here, holds 12 gallons. I want to show you really quick how I built this. When I put this thing together, I recorded it. I just wanted to talk about a couple of things before I show you how I built this thing. This is a Lesco 80-pound hopper spreader that this sits in. This is a 12-gallon tank. All of these parts I sourced online pretty much for almost everything except for the boom. I bought that at Home Depot. It's really quick. I just want to talk about this bulkhead fitting right here. So if I was to do this again, I would want to move this bulkhead fitting a little bit more towards the center of this cap right here. So about right in here is where I'd want to move it. It was quite difficult getting the nut on the underside of this bulkhead fitting. So everything else is fine except for I would want to move that a little bit right here. If you guys want the parts list in an Excel format, email me. My email will be in the description below. I will send you the parts list via email. So I think that's about it. So with that, I want to show you how I put this thing together. I'm going to show you how I'm going to put the sprayer build together. Got this pump right here. This pump is a 5561T. It's a 60-gallon PSI pump with 5.5 gallons per minute. I bought this from Northern Tool. It costs about $130 or so. I have these screws, washers, and nuts. I'm just going to mount the pump right here like this and put these nuts on the underside inside the tank. So I've got the pump installed. This is pressure relief valve. This right here needs to be installed here. So this is a bulkhead fitting. It's going to sit down in the tank like this. This is what is going to control the pressure coming out the nozzle. So this little barb goes here. So this is going to go like this, and then this is going to be a hose that'll go down into the tank, and that will be the overflow. Here is the pressure gauge that's going to show me what my pressure is. So that'll go here. I want this gauge to be facing me, the operator, so I can see what pressure I'm at. The pressure relief valve will dump the excess water back down into the tank. This is the output that will send water down to my boom. So this is the inline strainer. This will strain out all the particles that are not good for the spray tips before they go into the pump. This is gonna sit right here. Okay, so this is gonna have a tube on the end, and this is gonna be the feeder tube. I'm gonna sit down in there like that. Okay, so I like the way that's sitting with these connections here. I'm gonna put Teflon tape on all these threaded connections so they don't leak. I'm gonna do that right now. Okay, so I've got all the connections that are threaded. I put Teflon tape on all of them. Now I'm gonna put all these parts and install them on the sprayer. Once I get these installed, I'll hook up the feeder hose lines. I've got these stainless steel hose clamps. They'll go in here like this. I've got all the hoses installed. I installed a hose from here to here. This is the intake. It's gonna go through the filter, over here to the pump, through the pump to here. This is the pressure relief valve. It's gonna pressurize to the right setting according to what I set here. It's gonna dump the excess back down into the tank and agitate, and then it's gonna send it out right here to the boom. I put this quarter turn ball valve here so I can just mix up the solution. If I turn that off, it won't send water out to the boom. This tank has a flat bottom. The bottom of the tank kind of sits here, and it kind of sits and rides up above the bottom of this right here. I've got to figure out some way to elevate this tank and to sit all the weight from the water up off the bottom of the spreader right here. I think I'm gonna use this all thread right here. I'm gonna put it in here like this, pop it out about right here, one here and maybe one here. So the tank will sit on 2 all threads, one here and one here, and then that will hold the tank up off. Now that I have these pieces of all thread through here, this should hold up the tank pretty well. And I want this to sit in here like this. This is pretty strong. This is what's gonna hold the boom. I want these nozzles exactly 20 inches apart. So I've measured from the end of this to there, and then from here like this. I wanna put this on there like that and go. I've got 5 of those, so I've measured out all 5. And so I'm gonna put all of the nozzle bodies on there like this, and I will come back when that is done. I have all of these spray nozzle bodies mounted. They are all spaced exactly 20 inches apart, and this is where I need to cut the end of the pipe off. I've got all the nozzles installed with the hose to each nozzle, and then I put these 90-degree ball valves in between each nozzle so I can shut off and make my path wider or smaller. So I set this spreader up so I can easily disconnect the boom here so I can store the spreader and sprayer easily, and I don't have this 80-inch wide boom in the way. So I installed this little disconnect. Just disconnect this like this. I installed these wing nuts here, one here, and then another one over here. So you can just easily take this wing nut off. And then you should just be able to take off this boom like this for storage. So this battery sits right here on this bar and on this piece of angle aluminum. So now I just need to hook up the electrical. I'm gonna solder the connections, and I need to have a connection from the battery to the switch, which is gonna be on by my handle, and I need to hook up the pump. This is exactly how I'm gonna wire this thing up for the wiring diagram if you're interested. I need to make some electrical connections to make this pump run. So there's a couple of things that you need to do, and I wanna solder these up. So the couple of things that you need a soldering iron. This is just a Weller little soldering iron. It's fairly inexpensive, works great. You need some solder here. I like to use flux. You don't have to use it, but it works a lot better if you do use flux. And you need some of these shrink wrap tubes like this. This flux really helps the solder kind of take into the wire and to make the connection a little bit easier with the solder. So then what you want to do is you want to get your soldering iron hot like this. Then you want to wipe the tip. I normally just kind of wipe it on my pants here like this. You want to put a little bit of solder on the tip like this, just a small amount. You want to put the iron on the wire like this and hold it like that. When the wire gets hot enough, you'll be able to touch the solder onto the wire like this, and it'll just take right in and solder this together firmly. There we go. Just put it on the baler like that. That looks good. So the solder will just melt right into the wire, and it's really easy to do. It only takes a few seconds to put a little bit on there, and it doesn't take long to dry. It doesn't take long to cool. You've got to be kind of careful when you're doing this because it really heats up these insulation wires right here. So then, what you want to do, once you get the wire soldered like that, you want to put this little heat shrink tube over the top of this, and with this heat shrink tube, you want to make sure you put this on before you do the soldering connection, or you won't be able to get it on. So you put this on, slide this over like this, and then just want to make sure it's about right in the middle. Then you use the heat gun like this, and you heat it up, and it'll shrink right in place. and make a tight connection. You want to be careful when you're doing this as well so you don't heat it up too much or you will burn the insulation and or the shrink wrap. So like that looks good. So this is the battery connection. I want these to sit about like this. I'm going to wire tie these up like this. So when I disconnect this and this, I'll be able to just plug it right into the battery and into the pump, and then I can take the sprayer out of the machine. This will come up to here and be soldered onto this switch right here. I just need to solder the wire coming from the switch to the power supply right here. I'm going to cut this, make the connection and tape it together and zip tie it all up. And then I'm pretty sure I am done with the spreader and I am excited to use it. Soldered the positive and negative wires to the positive and negative wire coming from the switch. Goes underneath there, zip tied, and that's the final connection. So now when I turn on this switch right here, it'll turn on and off the pump. So I just need to zip tie this all the way through here, and then I think the spreader is complete. So I hope you guys liked the build of this sprayer project. It was a fun build, cost about $600. I know that's a lot of money, but you don't have to make the boom quite as big as I did. But it was an expensive project, but I plan to get a lot of use out of it. I have 20,000 square feet of lawn, and so I need a really wide boom, and I don't want to be out here with a backpack sprayer pumping and pumping. That just wasn't gonna be awesome to me, and so I wasn't about to go down that route. And so this will work well for me and should suit my needs for years to come, hopefully. The only other modification I made to this since I did the initial build is I added this piece of angle aluminum right here. This was kind of flimsy when I put the bar on there, so I wanted to have a little bit of extra strength right there. So I put that on there, and that really actually helped to firm it up quite well. One word of caution, this is a 12-gallon tank, so it does get kind of top heavy, and it will kind of go over and cause you problems. When I had that happen to me, I did post a video on that. This piece of angle aluminum actually split right here, and then over here. So I replaced the angle aluminum here as well, and then put this one on. So those are all the changes that I made to this. Hope you guys have enjoyed the build of this sprayer. If you guys want a parts list for this, I have an Excel sheet. Email me. My email address is in the description below, and I'll send it to you. Appreciate you guys watching these videos, and I will see you in the next video.